So the other day I was just scrolling down the tubes of you and something caught my eye. It was about a recent study. Let me read it to you. According to a recent survey, 1/3 of GenZers and younger millennials are looking to astrology, psychics, and other new age beliefs instead of organized religion. So let's talk about this. So if you've been around my channel for any amount of time, you know that I'm an ex-New Ager. But that's only halfway true. I'm actually more from the New Thought genre, which I kind of want to talk about today as I'm looking into this. So what this post was, it was an NBC News article, and it was a video that they did, and I watched the video. There was actually two videos that they did. One is, can psychics help improve your mental health? Which I'll talk about. And the other one, if I can find it, is labeled Why Gen Z is Leaving Christianity. I want to talk about both of these today. Now first, this study that they're talking about, I looked it up, I found this study. Let me read a little bit of it to you. Now there are two sources that I found this from. I'm going to read both of them to you. The first one is a Pew Research study, which repeatedly found that Gen Z is the nation's least religious generation, with about 1/3 having no religion, about the same proportion as among millennials, compared with 23%, 17%, and 11% among, respectively, Generation X, baby boomers, and the silent generation. The second source I found is Pacific Standard. I have never heard of this source before. I'm assuming it's some sort of blog. Yeah, it seems to be like a news blog website that seems to be a little bit more political when it comes to this kind of stuff. So just heads up on that. Either way, I'll have these resources in the description for you guys to check out further if you want to look at it more. But this article says that members of Gen Z are losing their religion for better or worse. My 17-year-old daughter, Sheila, does not believe in God. She attended church twice when we were trying to decide whether to raise her with religion. We decided against it. She's been at synagogue a few times, attending friends' bat mitzvahs, but those friends don't believe in God either. Her circle of close friends is diverse in many ways: white, black, Latina, Jewish, Indian. 3 identify as gay or bi. They are less diverse when it comes to religion, except for one girl who's an evangelical Christian. Religion is not important to these kids. Now, the source material for this study, just a heads up, because I don't know, I try to be as correct and efficient as I can with this information. It was taken in 2015 when they took this study. It is 2023 at the time of this video. So you can imagine how much that's already grown since then. I would say that this is only recent in the sense that it's less than 10 years old. So fair enough. It's very obvious that, in my opinion, that they're correct. This is definitely something that we are seeing a lot of. What I want to talk about and what I want to focus on is why. Now, when I saw the post, it was NBC News, but the videos that they posted were on a YouTube channel that's affiliated with them, which again, I'll leave in the description if you want to watch the whole thing. And there were 2 of them. And what they're doing is they're asking people questions. They're asking them why they're leaving Christianity, why they had left, what their experiences were like. And the other video focuses on the mental health that people are getting in the new age or with psychic mediums and things like that. The one that I'm going to talk about first is the one that talks about psychics improving your mental health. Now, these videos are relatively short. One is almost 10 minutes, the other is about 7 minutes. I've already watched them, but what I want to do is I want to bring up things in the video that really jumped out at me that I think is important to talk about and address. So the parts that I'm going to address, just to give you the context, I will play a little snippet of it for you to see, and then I'll give you my thoughts on it.
So I do believe a little bit in like astrology and stuff like that, and I'm not going to say that psychics are wrong or anything, but I do definitely believe in reincarnation.
It's really helped me with like just stress and anxiety in general, and my overall mental health and acceptance of just like how tiny I am in this great universe.
I think that they are true in some way, shape, or form. I don't know if every person that's a psychic is like real.
Now, this is the very beginning of the video. I actually really feel for them, especially that second girl. I could hear her voice cracking. I understand this to some level, on a empathetic level, because this is one area where I found a very alluring pull in New Age and New Thought. And I want to start with this because guys, everybody hurts. And I made a post recently about just really being mindful of not dehumanizing humans, we have such a really divided political climate, religious climate right now. And I mean, I have a comment section, I know, and it's really tough to kind of be in that situation, kind of in the middle of it all the time. It's in our faces and we can be desensitized. And so a lot of this is in the perspective of that pain informing their beliefs. And I'm not saying that to disregard what they've been through or why they're hurting. Now, I'm saying that because the point that I want to make with it will be valid here in a minute.
I think we're living in a day and age where people feel more open-minded. There's a lot of astrology videos out there that have confirmed a lot of people's life experiences.
Videos about astrology, zodiacs, and birth charts have gained millions of views on social. And as for what today's clients seek guidance about, it depends on their age.
And I've noticed that my older clientele tends to ask me questions about their children. Like, hey, like, what should my son get into for, like, his career? And then for my younger clientele, I often get those questions of, like, you know, what's my life purpose? What type of career should I get into? What kind of partner should I look out for?
But for folks who are looking for a bit more closure or direct contact with loved ones who've passed on, that's where mediums come in.
Okay, so this is really enticing for people. My audience, most of you guys are Christians. If you're not, I'm really glad you're here and I'm glad you're watching this, you know, hopefully to get a different perspective. But I want everybody to kind of understand that this is very alluring. Like, this is a very attractive thing. If you can talk to a psychic or talk to somebody, you know, your birth chart, whatever it is, you got to understand the underlying reason why people want that is we like to know why things are the way they are. We want solid answers. We don't really necessarily like that element of mystery. We like to know how to come about things, and it gives us peace. It gives us a way to grasp things and make sense out of them. And again, keep that in mind. The peace of mind that somebody gets from a piece of information that somebody gives them about their life, about their love life, about their children, whatever it is, gives them mental stability. Now, I'm holding on to this point because I don't want to get ahead of myself, but there's a very important caveat to that, which again, I'll bring up in just a second.
My grandmother and my aunt were on their way home from a casino in Atlantic City. And what ended up happening is the plane ran out of fuel about 20 minutes before the runway. So them, as well as, 17 other people, including pilots, the air crew and everything, perished.
Years after the tragedy, Taryn connected with a psychic medium unexpectedly.
Okay, so keep her story in mind. That is tragic. That is absolutely awful. I can't imagine the pain and heartache that anybody has to go through with a sudden death like that. Now, I'm going to skip ahead in her story. There's a whole other segment in this short video, but I want you guys to listen to something very important that this woman says. Because remember, the point of this video is that can psychics improve your mental health? Keep that in mind.
So our study compared responses of people who had consulted 4 different types of help.
John is a researcher in Australia who looked at how much psychics helped people looking for mental health support when compared to doctors, therapists, and family members or friends.
Though statistically, those who consulted a psychic were rating it a little bit higher, as just a little bit more helpful. Does the explanation that any helper gives have to be true to be helpful? And I'd argue it doesn't. It has to fit the person at the time and lead to adaptive action. It doesn't necessarily have to be true. A lot of our therapies we've moved on from, and we don't literally believe what they said 30 years ago.
Even if at some point somebody proves that psychics aren't real, all of that kind of stuff, it still can be helpful through that grieving process. I was down in some dark places at certain points.
Did you catch that? It doesn't have to be true in order to help the person. This is very important. This is what really bothers me personally, if I'm honest. I feel for these people. Everything that they've been through, any heartache that people have gone through, they go to a psychic or somebody who has these spiritual abilities, whatever it is, into the new age to find peace. Like, I don't want to downplay that, all right? I think that it's really important to talk about this pain that they feel, and it's real. Like, that is genuine pain. It's not like they're trying to fake it. I think about it, sleepless nights, crying, depression, all these things, they're desperate. However, the problem is that they openly admit that who cares if it's not true? It helped me. And if you've been around my channel any amount of time, you know that that exact phrase, I have kind of scolded really with Christians who have ventured into the New Age, mostly New Thought, but more on that in a second, and gone and done forbidden deeds with the logic of, it helped me. Who cares if that's bad? It helped. And that is the bait and switch. That is the experience speaking as truth instead of what's actually true. The idea that they can say, this researcher, somebody who researches this, can say, well, things that were true 30, 40 years ago, they weren't true, but they helped people. That's very interesting to me. It's that saying that's talking about a lie comforting you. This is like the battle cry of the day. And I'm not surprised that this research shows what it shows, because doing what's true and doing what's right, that's hard. That's really hard. And I'm not saying they're taking the easy way out. I'm saying that they were desperate. I'm saying that they were looking for answers. The thought that they concede that, hey, even if it's not true, hey man, this is what I really needed at this time, and this is what helps me. And sometimes I can see where that can lead to a positive outcome where they look back and they're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. But in God's sovereignty and his providence worked me through this. That's my story. So I understand that aspect of it, of course, but the idea that people can go and place so much faith in the New Age, in these people, knowing that the caveat is, hey, this may not be true, and I'm okay with that as long as it helps me, that logic, I think, is just dangerous and flawed. Now, what I want to do now is switch gears to this other video of why Gen Z is leaving Christianity. So the other video focused on really specific New Age teachings that, hey, this helps people. This is way better than religion. Nobody likes organized religion. There's way too much baggage and burdens over there. This stuff over here, though, this actually helps me. It was really the focus of the video. Are psychics real? Who cares if they are? It helps me. This is more of a transition into Gen Z and why they leave Christianity.
I've never really been into organized religion. My parents made it a point to not bring it up when my sisters and I were growing up.
I had grown up so Christian and lived in the church practically every Sunday. But as I grew, I realized that I was trying to be somebody that I wasn't.
Honestly, I never felt anything sitting in a house of worship.
Data shows that more and more young people are leaving organized religion each year. But for a lot of Gen Z folks, there's one huge topic that's pushed them away from the church. Its stance on the LGBTQ+ community. So what's going on here, and where are they turning to for guidance instead?
I want everybody to pay attention to something that I think, even if you disagree with me, even if you're here watching me and you don't like me, you don't like my channel, you don't like my views, I think that objectively there is something here that I want everybody to pay attention to. The reasons why people reject something have more to do with how they feel about it than if it's actually true or not. It has to do with their negative experience instead of if this is based in reality. Now, I hate to even bring this up, but this is what's coming to my mind when it comes to that point, is the Ravi Zachariah scandal. In fact, it was David Wood who made a really good point about this. In fact, hold on, let me look it up so I don't get it wrong. Okay, I found it. This is a 49-minute video, so I'm very glad that I found it. It's like at the 14-minute mark. So basically what he's addressing in this particular part of the video is that people who lost faith because of what Ravi did, and that how can we take anything that he said seriously? How can we take what he taught as being true because of what he did. And I have to say, David's argument is very sound. He's saying that a good argument is still a good argument, even if the person making it is terrible. And on the flip side, a bad argument is still a bad argument, even if the person making that argument is the most loving, giving, happy person in the world. It's still not true. Okay, sorry, I'm laughing because the way that he presents his point with this, I fully respect. But what he's saying is that if I say that 2 + 2 is 4, but then I go punch you in the mouth, that doesn't automatically mean that 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4. You might resent that it equals 4, but it's still true. And then he presents the opposite case, that if I walk up to you and I say 2 + 2 is 5, and I buy you a new car, that's a very nice gesture, and it's very appealing to agree with a non-truth because of that kindness, but that doesn't make it true. You see what I'm getting at? You see? Yeah. I'll leave this video in the description as well for you guys to check out. It's probably the best video I think I've watched on that whole situation. I know it's in the past, but these principles are really good. Okay, anyway, moving on. So just keep that in mind, all right, that a lot of this is based on 2 + 2 equaling 5 in the name of love and kindness and acceptance, all right? And then the other thing is the boundaries, the moral boundaries that come with not religion, right? With God saying, hey, this is bad for you. You shouldn't do this. This is sin. This is of the flesh. This is not holy. This isn't of the spirit. I am holy. Therefore, be holy. Be set apart from these things. And here's in my opinion, the dividing line. Here's the difference between telling that to somebody, person A, and then telling that to person B. Person A loves God, really loves God and wants to please him. Person B is just being obedient. They're just following the rules. They're just doing what they're told. The difference is love. Okay, if you love God and you love Jesus, you'll yearn to please them. And I know that legalism is a big part of this. My friend Elisa Childers, she talks a lot about deconstruction and progressive Christianity. Her and Tim Barnett just wrote a book. Keep a lookout for it, about deconstruction. And one of the points that she makes is that legalism leads to this. You know, keeping too hard of a thumb on people, all these rules and regulations to follow, it's impossible for people to do that. And so it puts a burden, it puts a yoke on them that Jesus took off. And so I think they're missing the whole concept, the whole point of why Jesus came, and they are letting their pain inform what is true, even if it's not actually true. So, all right, let's watch another snippet or two.
This is who I am, this is how I feel, but is that me like completely going against like this thing that I've known basically since birth?
In a recent survey, more than a third of Gen Z identify as non-religious. In fact, Gen Z is the least Christian generation, being most likely to identify as atheist or agnostic than any other generation. But this didn't start with Gen Z. Each generation following the silent generation has been getting less and less Christian. In 2020, over 60% of Americans identified as Christian, down from 90% 50 years ago.
I think as time has gone on, people are very much less invested in the institution of the church. They still have a really strong sense of spirituality and wanting that form of connection, but they're often looking for that in ways that don't always mean the institutional church.
So I kind of want to say a thought about this really quick. I actually wanted to make a video on this because it's, I don't know, maybe an unpopular opinion. People talk about how more people were Christian back in the day. Okay, I'm going to argue, and some people might disagree with me, but I think that they were only Christian by name. I don't think they actually believed. I think that they did it because this was just the cultural thing to do. So it's not a surprise to me at all that all of a sudden more and more people leaving the church is happening, because I don't think that they actually loved or believed to begin with. I think that they're just allowed to do it because it's more acceptable now. Does that make sense? So we think, oh man, more people were Christian back in the day. Those were the days. They really weren't. They just hit it better. That's my theory. We are in the minority. Biblical Christianity. I'm talking about people who take the Bible. That was my dog, sorry. He's a little extra. What was I saying? My brain fell out of my head. Okay, all right. I'm talking about people that take the Bible literally, that believe what it says and love God and want to do his will against the cultural flow of everybody else, what everybody else is doing. Like, they're not of the world. They want to please God, not people. And so I think that there's a point in pointing that out to everybody. But let's keep going. Let's see what else is here.
We've seen a long version of using religion as not a nurturing thing, but actually as a weapon, right? Or as a way to harm others. And I think that's what people are really, really tired of.
Confronted with this climate, Ross has found a way to keep young people in his community engaged with Christianity.
I hate to say it, but I agree with him. I want everybody to kind of notice that it's the whole religion thing, and they're showing a very fringe, extreme side of very legalistic religion. And that's usually typically what people associate Christianity with, unfortunately. They don't really care to understand the whole concept, the whole story. Like the beautiful story of our need for Jesus, our need for that cross. It's horrible how it's been abused. In other words, I can't remember who said this. I'm pretty sure it was J. Warner Wallace, but it's like you can't judge any belief based on the abuse of some people. But the idea to do that is you have to correctly understand what that belief system is to understand the outcome. This is a misuse of power. It's a misuse of what the Bible teaches, of what Jesus teaches, and it's extreme. So that's typically where people are getting their idea of what Christians believe and who Christians are. But there's more I want to say on this. Let's listen a little bit more.
I started thinking about how do we help young people create an identity of who they are, be comfortable with themselves, their sexual orientation, their gender identity, their faith. And I think one of the biggest things that we do, instead of lecturing or preaching or teaching at them, when we do Bible study, we read a passage, and then the rest of the morning is all questions to them about their life and their experience. They're the ones that are building their faith and building their spirituality.
Okay, so this doesn't surprise me at all, not even a little bit. So this is kind of where I want to talk about, we talked about New Age, but something that I don't think a lot of people talk about or even know about, and it's something I've been more vocal about this year, is New Thought. And again, more on that as time goes on because there's so much to know about it. But we see obviously that there's a lot of allure in progressive Christianity, okay, not just New Age. New Age is part of it, but progressive Christianity and New Thought go hand in hand. What I mean by that is that New Thought, let me break this down very simply. New Thought is not New Age. New Age is a frontal attack, okay? New Age is very obvious. You could probably watch the clips that I showed you and know, oh wow, that's occultic. That obviously is in its own genre. Astrology, numerology, tarot cards, crystal energies, ancient alien stuff. Right? These things are in its own bucket, so to speak. New Thought is made to look Christian. The simplest way that I can put it is take every Christian terminology, anything that you could think of, salvation, Jesus, the Bible, God, grace, the atonement, anything, and put a metaphysical definition to it. That means that there's an undergirding understanding that there's no certainty to anything because there's always a deeper hidden meaning in the text. Christ consciousness is not New Age, that is New Thought. That term came from New Thought. And the Christ within is your hidden inner divinity waiting to be awakened. So this is why they can talk about the Bible and Jesus, and they claim to have a Christianity, but it's made really in the image of man. It's made with the concept that you are now the authority. And I want to really parse that out on why they feel that way. Let me read just a comment to you in the comment section of this poor kid that I think really encompasses the idea of how and why this happens. I, Gen Z, was raised Christian from the day I was born. Sunday school, vacation Bible school, church camps were stuff I came very used to. I knew pretty much everyone in the church I went to, and I was involved in the youth group. I started questioning some things, some early teachings of the church as early as age 11, but nothing struck me much. When I was 13, I started developing tics. The people at the church and other churches as well started telling me that their Satan, that's important, their Satan, was causing it and that I needed to turn to their God. I was diagnosed with Tourette syndrome by a neurologist about 2 months before I turned 14. For a few years since my diagnosis, the members of these churches continued to tell me it was my fault. It's because I'm a sinner. It's punishment from God. Satan did it, and many other awful things. I turned to self-harm for a while, then went to therapy. Guys, can we just take a minute and pray for whoever this is? Can you just stop the video right now? Pause it, please, and just pray. That sounds terrible. And I'm so sorry that he had to go through this. Let me keep reading. After a while, I realized I didn't want to be surrounded by people who were constantly telling me I was being punished for reasons they couldn't even come up with by having a neurological condition like Tourette's. I left the religion and became more spiritual/agnostic not too long before I turned 17. Now, New Thought, by the way, is more spiritual but not religious. In fact, many New Thought authors would say, well, New Thought practitioners, if I'm going to get specific, would say that that's the motto of that belief system is spiritual but not religious. I made more friends with the people that the church would try to demonize, LGBTQ folks, people of other religions, atheists, etc., and realized that the same people the church was telling me were terrible people who hated me, and the God the church believed in treated me better than the church ever had. Guys, that's heartbreaking. That encompasses a lot of the reasons why people say that they are leaving the church. Now, I can't say that every instance that people leave has to do with a hurt that they had. A lot of other times, they don't like the limitations that Christianity puts on them, especially when it comes to morality. So they associate limitations with this strict, harsh, religious, legalistic type of belief system that harms people. And that's just not the case. I think that's the caricature that people have, and their hurt is valid, you guys. What this guy went through, that's valid. The conclusions, I think, are in error, though, because I want you to notice something. A lot of times when people are talking about their hurt, the claims that they're making of if it's true or not are ignored because their pain informs reality. And I think that's really important. He started asking questions. Guys, this is what happened to me. This is exactly what happened to me. And I'll leave a video in the description about this frustration I had. I'm like, I have questions, guys. These are hard questions. Can somebody please answer them? Can somebody kind of, no? I'm a pariah? Okay, wow. All right, well, these little magical books over here, they have answers and they're very accepting. Okay, so there's an element of this that I get, I understand. However, it didn't make it true. Right now in this frame of mind, if it's true, is contingent on if it helps them. And beyond that, there's an element of power, okay, personal power. I was recently speaking to a woman who was deeply into New Thought beliefs. And one thing she said really struck out to me because I was kind of interviewing her, if you will, personally, one-on-one. And one thing she said is that I am my own God. And I'm sad that other Christians and other churches have given up their power because then they can be abused. And I had her parse that out a little bit more. And she was very kind to share with me some personal things, which I won't share, just terrible things that happened to her. And the way she saw it was never again. Nobody's ever going to harm me again. I am the authority. You have no right to tell me what to do. I am the I am. I have my Christ within, and it informs what is right and what is true and what resonates with me. If it serves me, then that is true. And that's just one person saying this, but that belief is everywhere. So these people that have been through this pain that they've experienced have pendulumed all the way over on this side. And anything that looks like that from where they came from should be avoided at all costs. That's the bad guy. This is evil. This hurt me. And so to avoid that hurt and to look at what they view as healing, they go over here. They go as far away from it as they can. And they have an identity of spirituality. They want to try to hold on to this Jesus and this love or whatever it is, and it's just redefined to suit their needs. They don't care if it's true or not, in other words. So it doesn't surprise me that these studies are showing what they are showing. However, guys, here's the cool thing about truth and God, okay? The gospel is still preached. The gospel still saves. Truth is true whether we like it or not. It's true for everybody in all places at all times. It is unmoved. God knows all this. And I first would ask people to pray for everybody in this video that you saw and didn't see, people that were involved with the studies. Keep them in your prayers. And the other thing I want to bring up is that people that have been hurt by the church, that have left, sometimes they leave because they don't like it. All right, straight up. Sometimes people leave on their own accord because they don't want the God of the Bible. They don't like that Jesus. They don't like the idea of sin. They don't like the idea of hell. Okay, fair enough. And some people know that. They know that's what the Bible teaches. And they don't like it, especially, as the video pointed out, the LGBTQ issue. They don't like it. So they do one of two things. A, they abandon it completely, or B, they redefine it. And that's what I'm finding, is that people tend to just, oh, well, the Bible's not literal. I don't like that. I'm just gonna. In fact, I very recently had a conversation with a progressive pastor. He was very candid with me. A very nice guy, by the way. He was very kind, very open, but very, very candid with this position where he was saying that the Bible should not be read literally, and that the bad guys, that's the word he used, the bad guys, me and you, that take the Bible literally are hurting people. And then I said, well, can you blame them? Can you blame us for reading the Bible and following the logic of what it says and then applying it? And he's like, no, that doesn't help people, though. If it doesn't help them, then why do that? And I'm like, okay, well, let me understand your position then. You're saying that if you came across a scripture that you did not like, that say hurt you or hurt somebody else, how would you wrestle with that? Would you redefine it so that it's catered to serve you, so that it's catered to your position and your beliefs? And he said, absolutely. Didn't even skip a beat. He had no problem subjectively reading scripture like that. So I could say a lot on this, but I just wanted to point out the study, give my thoughts on it. Hopefully this has been helpful for you. I will have a lot more resources in the description of this video. Let me know what you think, though. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think I missed something? Let me know in the comments below.